Hello, my name is Kelly McDade and I'm art instructor at Bossier Parish Community College. Today I'm going to talk to you about the difference in art media. First we're going to talk about three-dimensional sculpture, and obviously it's the easiest one to determine if it is a sculpture because it's an object. And so the first piece we're going to look at is a non-objective wooden sculpture. It's very diminutive, sort of small scale for an intimate kind of domestic situation. This work is by Kevin Kennedy. It is a wood sculpture, therefore it was made through the subtractive process, which means that the artist actually removed material to create this sort of almost geometric form, but this interesting little form we have here. So again, this is a sculpture. It's made of wood and it was made through the subtractive process. Next we're going to have a sculpture by the artist Donna Service. This work is called Spider Boy, and it was made through an additive process. And what that means is the artist collected material, brought it together, and built up the sculpture itself. And so we see all kinds of work, bead work and fabric and, porcelain head and things like that. So this is an additive sculpture, also small scale, in more for a domestic situation or gallery, but it's a standalone piece. Oftentimes sculptors work with multiple objects to fill a space, or they might work in a much larger scale. So this is, as I say, a small scale work, but then very important to sculpture work in general is the idea of scale and form, the bulk of something as well. So this is pretty intimate, intricate work. Next, I want to talk about drawing. So now we're moving on to two-dimensional media. Okay, so two-dimensional media, there's a multiple of types of two-dimensional media. The first one we're going to talk about is drawing media, and it's been around since prehistoric times. So the first piece that we have here is by Laura Noland Harder. It's called Tiny Little Smile, and this is actually, this portion here is actually a graphite pencil on wood, okay? And so the background has been painted, but we call this a drawing because really the work, the image is made with graphite pencil drawing. So again, from prehistoric times to now, artists are working in the media of drawing. And so this is, again, a fairly intimate little piece and kind of a little bit of fun. Next, we're going to discuss another drawing. This is a self-portrait by the artist Serena Sheriff, and this is an ink on paper. And so what we see that's really important in this piece is a lot of line work. In the last piece we saw, it was more about shading, modeling, but in this work it's really about line work. And the artist in particular sat down and was looking at herself and working in a very quick, immediate fashion. A lot of times you'll see that with ink work. And so she was able to represent herself in sort of a 30-minute session or an hour-long session. And as you can imagine, working with ink, it's fairly unforgiving. So you want to make sure your line work is spot on, as we say. So this is a really nice piece, just capturing a quick gesture of the artist. Another ancient, prehistoric media is painting. And so, painting has been around for millennia. This work is obviously a much more contemporary work. It's by the artist Ellen Soffer. It is a work on paper. And so this, again, is a non-objective artwork that is dealing with pure shape, pure line, pure color. And so it's really almost a study in how things work together, whether it's color, whether it's shape, whether it's the line work, that gives it some interesting patterns and such. So Ellen Soffer, her work is quite lovely, and it's another example of an example of painting, I should say. Next, we're going to talk about prints. So print media came about somewhere in the 426, was it? Somewhere around there. Anyway, the invention of the printing press, which allowed artists to create an image in multiples, so to speak. So it's sort of the beginning of the information highway, if you will. This work is a woodcut, again by the artist Donna Service. And so what we see here, woodcuts tend to be fairly stark and bold, because it's either you have ink somewhere and you don't. The ink lays on top of the wood that is still intact, and the white or the blank negative space is usually created where the wood has been carved away. And so here we have a bird in flight, and again you can see areas here where you can get a sense that the wood has been carved away. There's some little flecks of the wood in, still intact. Another type of print is a computer-generated image. So, of course, we're in the 21st century nowadays, and artists, are working with media that's available to them today. And so this image is by Jeremy Johnson. It's called Tinker. It's kind of fun. This image was created through the computer and then printed in a limited edition in this fashion. So what we have here is, again, subtle color variations. We have very hard lines, and Jeremy's work you can see all over town. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, so this is computer-generated print. A lot of times when you're dealing with prints, you'll see somewhere there is a number that will tell you out of how many this print is. So say it's 4-20 or 4/20. It means it's the fourth pull from a series of 20 images. So like the one we just saw by Donna Service, that would be one of those hand-pulled prints, whereas this one, again, is printed on the computer. All right, in the early 20th century, there's an artist you may have heard of named Pablo Picasso, who came along with his friend George Braque and invented a new media, which is happening really all the time. He created a form called collage. Collage comes from the French word coller, to paste, and so basically what that means is the artist has gone and taken images or paper material from either newspaper, magazines, wallpaper samples, anything of that nature, and then pulled those images, cut them out, and then pasted them again, reassembled them to make their own kind of image. So probably you have made a collage in your life. It's a very common media. Anybody who's into scrapbooking owes their art form to Pablo Picasso. So what we have here, this is actually a collage by my daughter Sadie. And so you can see she's taken images from magazines and then pasted them on this paper and created a composition. She's thinking about color, she's thinking about shape, she's thinking about how these things all work together to create kind of this exclamation point in this image. So this is a collage. And last but not least, we can't forget, being in the 21st century, the idea of photography. Photography is one of the newer art forms, in a way. And so this is an example of a photograph, but it's also really what we would call a photo montage. And the reason I say that is because it's more than one image, more than one photograph, and also the photograph has been manipulated. So in the dark room, it's not just a straight black and white photograph. It's actually been manipulated, so these letters have come on top of the images, as you can see here, or the image is printed within a letter. So, and this is a work I had made for Artport, and so again, example of photo montage. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour of the regional contemporary art scene around here, and also learned a bit about different types of media in the art world. Thanks so much.